I aim to motivate and inspire viewers to see the clothes they wear as an expression of their personality and their beliefs. This is the Slow Wardrobe. Come and have a look. Hello, welcome to another episode of the Slow Wardrobe podcast. My name is Linda, for those of you who haven't met me before. In this episode, I'll give you an update as to what my life looks like in the Corona lane. Then I'll talk you through my latest knitting projects. And then in the last section, I am introducing a new garment in the Layercake lineup, the duster, the Layercake Duster. It's the first garment in the Layercake collection with sleeves, and I'm completely overexcited about it. So more about that later. But first, a little bit of a chat and update as to what my life looks like after the wool shows that I was going to be exhibiting at for the rest of this year, hopefully with exception of Yarndale in September, although the way things are going, that is looking exceedingly more remote somehow, with how the spread of the virus both is going in this country and as well as how it's being managed. It wouldn't surprise me at all if we do end up with another surge of the virus and there is going to be an element of back to square one at some point in the summer. But we'll see about that. Meanwhile, I am very lucky that I am recording this in my studio, which is in the same village as to where my house is. And because I can park very close to the building that I live in, as well as the building where my studio is housed, I can very safely go from one building to another without encountering any other people. So that means that my place where I normally work and access to my stock is still very easy for me. So I'm very lucky there. And I can use this space for recordings like this, as well as getting away from my family should I need to. Although we are a family of 5, my husband and I, and our 3 very grown-up children. I've got 22-year-old daughter, nearly 23, and 2 18-year-old boys. And all of us are quite serious introverts, so we like our own company. We also like each other's company. But we are lucky in the sense that our house can accommodate all of us without being in the same rooms all the time. So we can get away from each other within reason, and we're all pretty good at entertaining ourselves. So because of my husband's work, he can do a lot of his work from home. His work is changing a lot because of the impact of the virus on both him and his colleagues in terms of how they spend their time. But that seems to be managed quite well by him in his business. He's a partner in his business. And as a result, he seems to be busier than ever. And to a certain extent, that goes for me as well. What I decided to do with the shows being cancelled, and the shows entail half of my total annual turnover as a tiny, tiny business, was to really focus on how I can still reach the people who are interested in what I do, customers as well as people who like seeing what I do and are interested. So, of course, my podcast is one of the ways. So I've stepped up the podcast production, as you know by now. And I've done the same with my newsletter. I used to send out a newsletter once a month if I was lucky. And I now alternate newsletter weeks with podcast weeks and stay in touch that way. And that makes it possible for everybody to know what on earth I'm up to. I can tell people about it in the newsletter, and then I can show you in the podcast. And I try to enrich the content of both with segments like this one, telling you a little bit more about what I'm up to. So as a result of that, yes, the shows have fallen away and the busyness around them, and getting ready for a show, then doing a show, and then the aftermath of it is quite the treadmill. It takes a lot of time and a tremendous amount of energy and effort. So to not do those and to do kind of a slimmed down online version of them, like we did a couple of weeks ago with Wonderwall, creates a lot of extra space to do things, which I immediately filled with the stuff that I've just been talking about. And as a result, it feels like I'm, if anything, even busier than when we were doing the shows. But it also means that I get to explore new avenues and do new things. And that's just very exciting. And it feels positive, which is lovely in the face of the situation that we are all in. So I also want to take this opportunity to thank any and all of you who seem to be so enthusiastic about what I'm saying, what I'm doing with the podcast and the newsletter. Your support in that, of course, is absolutely priceless, because it helps steer me in the right direction and give me subjects to talk about and to work through and manage that I know you are interested in. And it also, of course, is an enormous confidence boost to keep going, and that I'm moving in the right direction with things. So I move back and forth between my house and the studio, and the only other person who's ever in the studio is Andrea, who makes Layercake and does all the pattern work for me when I come up with a new design, like the duster. So because of the layout of the studio, it's very easy for us to socially distance. So we do that religiously, and it's working a treat. I won't witter on too much about that. If there are any particular questions that you have about me and my life, let me know. I'm happy to answer them in a future episode. But without further ado, let's talk knitting. Okay, so those of you who see my antics on Instagram will have already seen a little bit of the socks that I'm about to show you. I've taken a photograph as well, so I will show you an inset photograph of the socks here right now. They are socks that the yarn for which I ordered from America, then had them sent to a very special and treasured customer in America who also is regularly in England, and she brought the yarn back to England for me. This was all just before lockdown hit, so she managed to bring the yarn to England, posted it to my house so that I could knit with it, and then she had to hurry back to America before the borders actually closed. So she managed all of that. She got here and back safe and sound, but it felt a little bit as if she'd made the hop just to get my yarn here. It wasn't quite that dramatic, but almost. So here is another close-up of a very long sock. It's because I made these for my husband, who is a UK size 12 shoe size, 11 and a half, 12. So he's got big feet, doesn't even fit properly on my wire sock blocker that I make of wire clothes hangers. But it's enough to give you a bit of an idea. I knitted the socks top down. He likes long cuffs. He likes long legs on his socks, so he got that as well. And then a traditional eye of partridge heel with a heel turn and gusset. And this yarn actually has 20 different colors in it. So you manage to get about 2 repeats of all colors, even in a sock this long. You can see the red here and there at the top. So it's 2 complete repeats in one sock. And I absolutely love them. He loves them as well. They've just been washed because he's already been wearing these. And this morning he said, where are my rainbows? Meaning these socks. I said, well, they're in my bag because I'm gonna show them in the podcast. He was like, oh. I said, come on, you can miss them for one day. So he'll have them back later today. He can even wear them this afternoon if he's that desperate. I think we'll be all right. So that's my finished object. This is the typical TV knitting that I've mentioned before, of which I do lots when we're watching like a film with the kids, for example. So that was this. Those are the socks that I completed. And of course, I've cast on a new pair of socks. I think I've already put those on Instagram as well, that I can show you. This is from a double knitted sock blank. I had bought this sock blank, I think probably more than a year ago, from Amelia Tribe Yarns in Richmond, before she moved to her glorious new location. Now, to give you an idea, for those of you who don't know what a double knitted sock blank is, you may have seen sock blanks. So that is sock yarn that is knitted either into a bigger tube or into a flat piece of knitting, so it can then be painted or splodged or dyed to the inspiration of the dyer, and then it gets unraveled and knitted into a sock. Now, this sock blank is double knitted, meaning 2 strands of sock yarn held together and knitted together. That, of course, means that you end up with 2 strands of yarn with very similar patterning. It also means that as you unravel the sock blank, you have 2 feeds of yarn coming off it at the same time, which you can either choose to wind into 2 separate 50-gram balls and then knit from them, or you can unravel and knit immediately. In the case of a double knitted sock blank though, because you have 2 feeds of yarn, if you want to knit them immediately, it also makes sense to knit them both together. And what I opted for, first time in my life that I've actually done this, is to knit them magic loop 2 at a time. That looks like, for those of you not familiar with that, that looks like this on the needle. So you end up with a long circular needle. This is a Chao needle, an interchangeable Chao with a 2¼ millimeter tip. 2¼ is still the best size for me to use when I'm using a relatively standard sock yarn weight, so around the 400 meters per 100 grams. 2¼ is the best size for me to work with. And what you end up doing is you literally knit circles. You run circles around both socks. You knit circles around both of these socks. So you can see that I've got a yarn here. So the next bit, and that's sitting as if I would be knitting a regular sock, that's coming from there, and I'm going around the bend knitting that way. And here are my tips. So I would knit to the end of this section, drop the yarn, leave it, pick up the yarn at the next sock, which is in that same position, knit across here, and then this would look exactly the other way, but my yarns would hang on the other sides of the sock and my tips would be on the other side of what I'm holding up now. And then I can turn things around and knit that other end, again dropping the yarn when I have done half a round of a sock. So you do half a sock round, half a sock round, finish that sock round, drop yarn, finish that sock round. I don't know if I'm making sense. I hope I am. There are lots of tutorials about this on YouTube, so I won't harp on about it for too long. I'm about to start the heel flap on these, and what I wanted to show you is what a massive difference it makes between seeing the sock blank, which looks like that, and then seeing the fabric that knits. I'll do an inset photograph again as well, but just to hold it up first. So all those colors are there, but they end up being mixed together in the finished knitting, which I absolutely adore. I love that speckled kind of little stripies, and all those colors are there, but in such a pleasing way. So what that has taught me, and what I would like to impart on you if you're not familiar with this, is that the only thing you have to do when choosing one of these sock blanks is like the colors that are being used. If you like all of these colors, then how they are distributed and how splodgy and messy they look on the sock blank is pretty inconsequential, because of course they're going to be completely rearranged when you knit them. Can you see that section that has some red stripes smack in the middle? That was a section that on the sock blank looked a bit like this. It had a big red splodge, and those big splodges come up like intermittent stripes on the knitted fabric. I absolutely adore it, and I must say that even though I am quite a committed double pointed needle fan, I quite like this. When I tried magic loop knitting of socks before, and so when I have one sock on a circular needle with the loop sticking out, it drives me nuts that every half round I have to feed my cable through, and that seems to slow me down quite a lot when I compare it to double pointed knitting, where you just move on to the next needle, move on to the next. I'm so fast on double pointed needles, and although I'm not as fast with this 2 at a time, I don't think, as I am with double pointed needles, the feeding through of the needles doesn't bother me one bit here. And I think it has to do with the fact that I bunch the 2 socks together, then I start knitting, and all I do is then in the middle of what ends up looking like one long row, I drop one yarn and pick up the other. So there's no feeding going on. There's no movement of the needle and the cables here. So I go to the end of there, then I move the cable, and then I go the other way across, just changing the yarn in the middle of it so that I don't end up knitting both socks together, obviously. And that makes a massive difference somehow to me. And I also quite like the fact that I end up with this 2 for the price of 1 routine. So I think this is, well, I can say with certainty already, this is not going to be my last double knitted sock blank. Like I said, I bought this from Millie at Tribe Yarns, but it was dyed by Jilly Beans. I'll give you the details, of course, all here. And if you have not tried this, go and seek it out. It is so much fun. I highly recommend it. So that's the socks that I've got on the needles. And now on to my next project, which is in my, now how do I say this properly? Ochils or Ochils Bag from Midwinter Yarns. Look at this glorious color, doesn't it just jump out of the screen? This is vintage linen that Estelle uses, and she matches it with really lovely choices of contrasting fabrics to line them with. And when I show you what's in this bag, you get an idea of how much it holds when it's full, because this is pretty full now. And I'll take a couple of things out and then I'll show you how it works in terms of closing it. This has no less than 3 big cones of linen yarn in it. That shows you also the colors that I'm actually knitting with. So this is undyed linen, and I just adore the color of undyed linen. It just has this depth that you get with naturally dyed yarns as well. Then it has teal, a teal cone, second cone in the bag, and these are 500 gram cones. And the third is one of the colors that makes up our bitter lime knitted woven fabric in the Layercake collection. So if you remember the apple green that we have as the warp in some of our Layercake colors, for example this one, the brick, that color green is the warp, and then brick is woven with this beautifully kind of vintage red, brick red, and then you get the brick colorway. Now the bitter lime linen is warped with this green and then wefted with this beautiful kind of tobacco color almost. It's very vibrant. It's brown, it's yellow, I love it. It's like a very dark mustard color. So that's the third color. So those 3 were in there, and then little notions bag. I'll take that out as well. So now the bag is empty. I'll show it to you empty as well. I'll turn it inside out because that's the easiest way to show you that it's got a massive internal pocket, inside pocket. See, so that pocket runs the breadth of the bag and pretty much half its height. So it's lovely to keep, it's big enough to fold a pattern in or even a notebook or anything like that. Then the bag has got a rectangular base so it can stand up really well. And if you put a slightly less extreme size project in it, so if I just grab one of these, for example, imagine that that is the size of your project. I'll put the project itself, which I'll show you in a minute, in it too. Then you end up with a lot of extra fabric, which you can turn like this. You can roll it up. Then you go around and close it like that. See that? So you can make the bag as big or as small as you want, because I've now given it 2 rolls, but you can give it 1 roll. You can also not roll it at all if it's so full as what I had it. And you could go 1 roll further if your project is even smaller. The other thing that you can do with it, when it's like this, is hang it. So you could have it hanging open with your project in your hands and your ball, your yarn ball in the bag, and hang it off your arm or a chair or whatever, so it can double up as a yarn bowl while you're knitting. Absolutely adore it. It's beautiful. It's gonna outlast me. It's so strong. Okay, so Midwinter Yarns, Ochils Bag. Details below. Highly recommended. I love it. Now onto the project. New design. It's going to be very messy and quite difficult to show you this properly because, of course, it's on a circular needle and I'm working with 3 colors, but I'll give you a little bit of an idea. I started with a rectangle. So I started, it's going to be shawl or wrap kind of thing. And I started with a little garter tab which is going to be in the middle top back point of the shawl, and then working outward like you do with a triangle and with a crescent shape, for example. And I chose my increases differently so that I end up with 2 points of increase, a diagonal line of little, can you see that? Yeah, diagonal line of increases, and you end up with a rectangle point. And then from that rectangle you can of course work in different directions, which is exactly what I've done. So at the moment when I hold it out, oops, I have to make sure that I don't lose my stitches here. Feed the, there we are, feed the cable through a little bit. And what I've got at the moment is this. What you can't see very well is that this makes a point going down. So I've got a rectangle with a point going down in the middle, and then 2 other points that are going down here in the corners. And I'm about to start the next section. That's where I am at the moment. So I'll keep you posted on the progress of this, and I hope I can introduce it as soon as possible. I will do kits, of course, in combinations of the 3 colors. I think this is really nice together, these 3. So coming soon, kits of the new shawl in 3 colors. And the other thing that I will do is do kits, because this is linen and not everybody likes knitting linen, but it has exactly the same yardage as my Soliloquy sock lace, 600 meters per 100 grams. And of course I've got that in 2 different bases as well, merino and silk and alpaca and bamboo. So I will also do kits in the Soliloquy bases so that you can choose what kind of yarns you would prefer to use if you're not keen on knitting in linen. Although I do recommend that you give it a go. Unless you're a very tight knitter, you might be surprised how easy it is to knit with a yarn that isn't stretchy. To me, it doesn't make one hoot of a difference whether the yarn stretches or not. But I do have so much knitting experience. Coming back though, I've just forgot. Talk about knitting experience. Just in case you think, oh well, but it's easy for you, you've knitted for so long. Right, I just forgot. I need to tell you about a blunder that I made with these socks. Oh my goodness. Right, so what I do now when I knit socks, starting at the cuff, I have a provisional cast on, and then have this technique. I actually forgotten what it's called. I'll look it up and put it down below. The result of knitting it is that you get this beautiful neat edge, and it's extremely stretchy. It just looks like the stitches go over the top like this. So it's a faff to cast that on and then do the first couple of rounds. Then you get rid of your provisional cast on yarn, and then you end up knitting the rest of the cuff. So I had done that on double pointed needles and then transferred my 2 little sock starts to my circular needle. And I was knitting away. I must have been close to the point where the red comes in. And I noticed that as I unraveled this sock blank, I was using more of one of the yarns than of the other. Well, that's what I was doing, but that's not what I was thinking. I was thinking one of those yarns is knitted somehow more loosely, is knitted with less tension into this sock blank than the other. If that proceeds the same way, I should really let Millie and the designer, Jilly, know that there's a tension difference between the two yarns, and there's, one is longer than the other. So I was noticing that. I kept knitting, and this one strand was getting longer and longer. So I thought, you know what? It's going to be more and more of a hassle, the tangle that makes. I will cut that extra piece out in between, and then everything is going the same again. So I did that. I get all the way to the point where I'm thinking, a couple of rows back from here, where I'm thinking, okay, I'm ready to do my flaps, my heel flaps. And let's make sure that I've got the same number of stitches on either side. And guess what? I have one sock with 64 stitches and one sock with 66. That's why one of the threads was getting longer and longer. I was knitting 1.5 faster than the other. And I'm at the point of the heel flap, so it's like, okay, so what do? I'm going to rip out one sock and knit it again. Well, there's no other way. So I started doing that. I started ripping it back, and then I ripped it back probably until close to this red section. I thought, you know what? Let me try and put what I've got on my feet, just pull it around my heel and see how different it looks and feels, those 2 extra stitches. Of course, there's not much difference at all. So I thought, you know what? I'm not going to rip it all the way back. I'm going to decrease the 2 by 2 stitches at opposite ends. I'm just going to decrease it to 64, go back to the same point that I am with the other one, and then continue as normal. So one of these socks has a segment that is from approximately here on down, that is 2 stitches bigger than the other side. I don't even remember which one it is. There really isn't that much in it, so that's what I did. Rookie mistake? After close to 50 years of knitting, there you go. We're all human, thank goodness. Maybe I'm just getting old, I don't know. But I figured I would share that story with you. Where are we? Okay. Knitting update. I'm working on the shawl. Oh, the jumper. The jumper with the V-neck that I was working on, and that I've shown you before, and to sleeve and not to sleeve, and what type of sleeves and whatever. I've sat down twice with that jumper to want to knit the sleeves now, and I still haven't been able to do it. I know exactly what I want to do, I know how to do it, and I sit down to do it, and I'm not doing it. And all I know, all I've learned with regards to something like that, if I keep bumping up against the same resistance to doing something, even if there's no rational explanation for it, I've learned through experience to heed that sense and say, okay, something's holding me back. I don't know what it is yet, but all will become clear. So you'll have to bear with me on that jumper. It will eventually be finished, but something is holding me back, and I'm not sure why. The answer is around the corner. Let time pass by. Let me just wait until it unfolds itself. Something needs to become clear to me that isn't yet. Maybe it's an experience I need to have. I don't know what it is. But I know from the past that if I don't heed that little alarm bell going, if I don't heed that, I don't know what to call it, that barrier, then I regret it later on. So bear with me. At some point the jumper will return, is all I can say for now. Okay, enough about knitting. Let's talk about the new Layercake Duster. I was going to call it the Kimono Duster. And I received a very, very kind and considerate email from one of my newsletter subscribers who referred me to an article written by Emi Ito, a lady of Japanese descent. You may have seen some of her work on Instagram or in articles that she's written. On Instagram, she is Little Koto's Closet. I will put that handle down here if you want to familiarize yourself with her work. And she has spoken out very considered and very sensitively about cultural appropriation. Now, there are lots of voices around this, and in the down bar below this episode, I will refer to a couple of other articles that have been written about cultural appropriation and voices in moving and pushing and pulling in different directions. The bottom line was my choice to call that garment a kimono duster. I didn't even consider the Japanese link of the word kimono when I named that duster. All I was trying to do, and maybe therein lies part of what affronts people about this, all I was trying to do was use the word kimono as a descriptor of the shape that I was creating. Of course, you can then say, well, just call it a drop sleeve or a box sleeve, for example. But it's not just the sleeves that made me choose that descriptor. Anyway, the bottom line is it was a descriptor for me of a garment that I had called a duster. So if using that descriptor creates any kind of negative connotation with anyone, then I don't have any issues with dropping the descriptor. So I'll call it the Layercake Duster. And I hope that that change is perceived as a positive move. So the reason I'm bringing it up here is to hopefully impart some of the thinking around this. I don't want anybody to think that, oh my gosh, she got worried and she quickly dropped the word. No, that's not what it's about. It's about wanting to be sensitive and wanting to acknowledge the fact that there are so many people in so many communities around the world that are not being seen and not being treated respectfully. And whatever I can do within my tiny little corner of the public world that I inhabit with my tiny little business to recognize that and to actively discourage it, I will do so. And that's been the motivator for me to drop the word kimono from the Layercake Duster collection. Layercake Duster introduction. Oops, the post. That was the daily collection of parcels by DPD Local. So tomorrow, Thursday, the 14th of May, a couple of other people are going to be happily unwrapping a slow wardrobe parcel. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Anything you'd like to ask or contribute in comments here on YouTube or on my Instagram feed, I would love to have more conversation about this and hear more opinions and voices, because I think that that is a good thing. Changing things for the better and hearing and seeing people that speak up in honor of their cultural traditions. I love that. And I love if I can help make that visible in any way. So, moving on, talking about the duster. I am overexcited about it. You'll see more about that in the next section. Partially because it's the first one size garment that we are introducing. And we really have tried it on a number of different size bodies before decided that, yeah, we really can call it a one size garment, covering from a UK size 10 to UK size 26. But it's also the first layer cake with sleeves. Now I am wearing a sample in our small check. We've introduced it in 3 limited edition fabrics, but as I will say in the next section, we will do more in due course. And I wanted to see what the duster looked like and felt like in this fabric. So I'm wearing this one to show you a little bit of its shaping. First, layer cake with sleeves, and the shape of it has been chosen so that we can accommodate the arms and the upper bodies of all the different layer cake ladies that we serve without constantly having to tweak and change those sleeves. We've done 2 jackets in the past, one little waterfall jacket in linen and then a little bolero jacket with this beautiful open collar, where it just happens too often, to our own liking, that somebody says, yeah, I love the way it looks, but it just doesn't feel quite right on me. And that has to do with the upper arm part of the sleeves of a garment. So in this case and with this shape, that's not a problem. So yay for a layer cake with sleeves. Of course, it can also be worn over anything else, so excited about that. And that fact that we have managed to go across all those different sizes with a one size fits all those sizes is the ultimate of what I'm trying to achieve with layer cake, which is to create this sense of alchemy, this sense of fusing together the cut of a garment, the fabric that it's made of, and the fit and flow of that garment around a body. That is always at the heart of what I try to do with layer cake. So cut, fabric, and fit. But not only have we managed to do that and have that marriage of those 3, but we've done it without having to change the size of it. All we do are 2 different lengths, which is just a personal preference thing. It's less about fit and more about, well, I want a long one or a short one. But that one shape and that one size looks fabulous on different body sizes and on different body shapes. So it feels like a proper tiny personal triumph. I hope you, or those of you who decide to, either you've already ordered one or you're going to order one, I hope you agree with me. And as with all layer cakes, when you order something and you decide it's not for you, of course you can return it. I could never insist that somebody buys a garment and then doesn't have the option to return it. The only exception there is layer cakes that are on sale. Those are final purchases, and I really hope you understand that. But anything else, if you try it on and you decide it's not for you, you can return it or exchange it. And if you do return it, you get your money back. The whole thing of giving you a voucher that kind of ties you to buying something in the future, I don't like that. So either you keep it, you exchange it, or you get your money back. I think that's it. Shall we go and play? Shall we go and try it on and show it with lots of other layer cakes? Why not? I hope you enjoy it. Hello, and here it is, the short duster, Layercake Duster. I only have a short one in this fabric at the moment because we have raced in time to get them launched last week. So we had a sample in each of the 3 fabrics in the long, but only one in the short. There was no more time. So showing it off, showing the back in the mirror, showing how wide it is in terms of its sleeves. You can see the splits at the arms. That whole section is double-faced, so it's got a nice weight about it. And I'll also show you that it's got a big facing at the front and then a nice deep hem to give it that swaggery kind of feel and movement when you wear it. I am so proud that we have managed a one-size-fits-all layer cake, and it actually does look great anywhere from a UK size 8 to a UK size 26. My goodness, with the volume that it has, you can see here, it even looks good on a mannequin without any proper arms. So I think the bodies are like a UK size 8 or 10, and then even without the width that normal arms would add, this still looks good. So you can trust me on that one. The only caveat is that if you are very slight, one of our size zeros, UK size 8 or 10, and together with it you are, I would say, maybe below 5'2", then you may find that even though it looks good, you may feel as if there is too much fabric all around you, unless you really like that layering look like I do. I can never have enough fabric around me. And so if you are 5 foot, 5'1", and a size 0, then it's a matter of personal taste whether you like the feel of it on you. In terms of length, the long one is still not going to be too long. It's still going to be fine. It's still going to be above your ankle. We've made sure of that. Of course, I always have Andrea making the garments here and doing patterns for me, and she's 5'2". So with all our layer cakes, with me being 5'10", with Andrea being 5'2", we make sure that all our layer cakes fit that whole range of sizes, anywhere between a 5 foot and a 6 foot. And then, of course, the different widths as well. But going back to the original point, we've made it so that even the long one is not too long for somebody who is between 5 foot and 5'2". It's just that together with, if you are very slight as well, then you may find it too voluminous. Not guaranteed though. So if you fall in that category and you don't like the idea of feeling that you're dragging a tent behind you, then go for the shorter option. This one, it's still nice and long in the back in the sense that it comes down to about halfway my thigh. I'm 5'10", so if you are shorter, then of course that length comes down. And in terms of where it sits in relation to pockets, the baggy pockets are well below it. You'll see in a minute that the dress pockets fall slightly higher, but you still have perfect access to your dress pockets. Anyway, sticking to the outfit that I've put on, I've just put on a white camisole, and then together with the oatmeal colored, nice and thin and flowy duster and a pair of baggies. And of course this could be high-lows or a skirt or a pair of trousers or skirt that you have at home. It makes for a lovely summery sunny outfit. If it's warm enough, you could throw it off, and then if you think, oh, cover up again, stop my shoulders from burning, then you just throw it back on and it's nice and airy and light as a summer outfit. I will now show you what this same outfit looks like with a long duster. And here it is. The only difference with the final design and this one is that this one is about 2 inches too long. You can see how long it is on me. And going back to the original point that we wanted to be the right length as well for somebody who is a good 8 to 10 inches shorter than I am, we chopped 2 inches off all around and made sure that the back of the long one is exactly the same length as the regular length dress. That gives you an idea of where that length would fall on you. So this one is closer, it's not quite, but it's closer to the length of the long dress. And it's fine. I will wear it. I love it already, of course. Can't help but snag one for myself. So it's going to a good home, but it gives you first impression of the difference between the long one and the short one with this particular outfit. I will now swap this light colored one for the black one and just have a quick look in the mirror as well as to how this sits and how this moves when I've got it on, because you'll see a completely different story in black. And this is it. Here's the black one. Look at the length difference on me. This is the final length for all the long dusters. And now look at how differently this moves. See, there's less wafting of fabric. It's all still there. It's exactly the same amount of fabric. But because the black is thicker and heavier, it moves differently. Now, the difference that between our regular pre-washed linens and the ones that we've used for this new design is that they are not pre-washed. So keep that in mind, especially with this black one. The feel of the fabric and the movement of the fabric is going to change slightly when you wash this, depending on how you wash it. If you hand wash it and drip dry it, it will keep that same more kind of stiff and formal look, if you like. And I'm aware that that may be one of the reasons that you choose the black in the first place. But if you want the same kind of slightly crumpled linen feel that all our other Layercake linen has, then just chuck it in a washing machine. Don't wash it too hot. And then if you want to, you can dry it at a low heat again to stop it from shrinking, unless a bit of shrinking doesn't make a difference. And if you want to, you can put some of those drying balls in with the dryer, or even an old trainer, as long as it's clean, or a couple of towels. They will help soften the linen, and then you get more of that scrunchy look and feel that our regular pre-shrunk linen has. So there it is, the black. And now I will show you the taupe. And here's the taupe. The flowiest of them all. This is a gauzy weave, as you can see. You can see through that. For some of you who remember the party dress, we did a double layer dress for a season, which had a linen underdress, a linen slip attached to it of a medium weight linen, and then a very flowy overpiece made out of this linen. We stopped making that dress because we were not satisfied that it was a garment that worked for the whole breadth of our customer base, and that's what Layercake is all about. It's not a one-size-fits-all brand, but it's a one-look-suits-all concept, for want of a better word. So I think we have got it right using this fabric for this duster. And with all that movement, calling it a duster is rather apt. In my house, I would do a lot of dusting while I would be swanning around like this, that's for sure. Okay, now you've seen all the different guises, the three different colours and how they sit and move on me, as well as the short one. I will now show you a couple of different outfits with the duster combined to see what it looks like. Like I said, I've got it with a pair of baggies here. I will now replace that for a dress. Here's the dress with the duster. You can see in the back that the duster length is equal to the dress length in the back. Baggies underneath. I'll now lose the baggies so you have that summary look back of a sleeveless garment with the duster on top. Baggies gone. Just the regular length dress, which I normally don't wear. I normally wear the longer length. I think that that's, for me, is, unless I'm wearing baggies with it, I think the longer length is a better proportion. I just like that whole elongated look. But this works beautifully, regardless of how much leg you show underneath. Because, of course, when you're not as tall as I am, then there would just be less legs sticking out. I'll show you the longer dress as well. For those of you who wear the long dress, then you can see what happens when you combine that with the long duster. Longer dress, same duster. See what happens in the back in terms of its length. Show it in the mirror as well. I don't actually know whether that's easier to see. Anyway, you can see the difference in length between the duster and the dress here. And again, lovely flowy look. Let's swap the duster for the black one, because in combination with either the charcoal or this pinstripe, you get much more of a formal outfit. And here it is. Pinstripe dress, black duster. Show you in the mirror. And of course you can just get it to hang like this. See the silhouette that we've gone for and the overall look and feel of it. Really elegant, but incredibly understated in its shaping. Doing that combination of fabric, cut and fit of the garment that creates the Layercake alchemy, as I like to call it. Bringing those three together and going back to the requests that I still get for patterns of the garments. This is why we don't do patterns. If you throw just any other fabric at this, it would ruin the garment and it would ruin the look and the drape. We carefully curate that. We make that perfect combination of fabric, cut and fit. Now, I'm wearing a pair of very understated little flats on purpose. Emphasis is on the garment. But I could jazz this up just a tiny bit with a couple of colour pops. So back to styling. If this looks very severe and very serious, then you can funk it up a little bit by just changing shoes and adding an accessory. Grabbing a bright pair of shoes, Grabbing a bright little scarfie. That's enough. The eye is drawn to the bright colour. The silhouette of the outfit is unaffected, but all of a sudden there's a cheerfulness to the outfit that wasn't there before. And horses for courses, sometimes you want it like that, but here is a lovely alternative by only changing a couple of tiny things. I'm wearing the wrong colour lipstick. Of course you can do that in that same bright pink as well, but the point is made. Very simple change. I'll keep all of this on, but then swap this one for the light short duster. And here it is. See how the pockets of the dress are slightly higher, but still very easy access. You can brush the whole thing back like that, or just go over the top with your hand because the pocket is right there. Can't miss it. Lovely look with the pinstripe dress. So this is the long dress, the short duster, little Dambord Scarfie, and some accented shoe color to lift the whole outfit. Let's try a couple of other layer cakes with these dusters as well, just to finish off showing how they go with the different garments in the collection. What about this? I'm trying to be mindful to change one part of the outfit at a time. So still the short duster together with the overalls. That nice long silhouette of the overalls. Of course I've put my little cami back on. With the short or with the long. Overalls. Turning into quite a kind of distinguished, stylish garment in combination with the duster. Dress them up and dress them down like with any of the layer cake garments. Of course you can even pin this shut should you wanted to, and then these look like palazzos underneath. If you've got palazzos, great combination with the duster like this. That nice flowy look that the duster brings in then comes back in the trousers, or the baggies, of course. They're great as well. I've already shown you. Let's try add a smock to this and see what happens to the overall look. I'll wear the slightly shorter duster because it's the right length. This one is a little bit too long, and I want you to get a good impression of how this garment hits the other layer cakes. Now don't focus too much on the colors that I've combined. I wanted them all to be very different from each other so you can see what happens where the different lines are. You can see that the duster has that diagonal line that is in the smock as well. And here we have a regular length, medium length playsuit in dark teal with over the top of that a moth tabard. They're both size 1s. And over the top of that the long duster. You can see here that the color of the moth linen is very close to the color of the gauze that we've used for the duster, and in fact the facings of the duster are done in moth. We've done it on purpose. The extra strength of that comes from the structure of the more sturdily woven, more tightly woven washed linen is a great addition to this gauzy linen when it comes to creating the structure that we want around the neck area, along the front and the cuffs of the sleeves. So that's where we've added the moth colour. The rest is all gauze. And I think that combination with the moth is just so classy. It's so understated. With classy, what do I actually mean with classy? It's kind of chic. It's simple. It's stylish. I don't want to evoke a sense of money when I say chic or classy. I mean that it is sophisticated taste, I guess, is the best alternative wording that I have. Duster and tabard. It's actually the first time that I'm putting the duster and the tabard together. And I love the two together. You get the diagonal lines of I actually, being very honest, like this better right now than I did the smock. That may be a colour issue. Okay, now I have to put a smock on, of course, in moth to show you the difference. Okay, smock next. Here we go. And here it is. The smock in moth in combination with the gauzy taupe duster. Man, now I really love this. Good thing I like my own clothes. Oh, sorry about that. I don't really call myself a curator, but when it comes to gushing in front of the camera, I don't do much curating. What you see is what you get. It's just spontaneous, waffling on and on. Hope I'm not boring you to tears. Right, I think the bottom line is, to me, the combination of moth and the taupe are a real winner. So rather than going for a big contrast, go for this really understated kind of simple look. And one of the things, of course, that does is it really puts the emphasis on the shaping of the garments. If it's not the color that your eye is drawn to all the time, then it's more that shape. And I guess I'm just really proud of the shaping that we have achieved with this. So I've got the medium length playsuit underneath, which is cropped on me. Then the smock in moth, and then the duster. Let me grab the black duster again to see how that compares. And here it is. Very different look indeed. See a little bit of the point of the smock coming out from under that. See that? Swagger, swagger, show you the back in the mirror. And then to finish up, I'll do the short one as well with this outfit. Short in oatmeal, together with the Smock in moth and the Playsuit in dark teal. I was going to leave it at that, but now I really want to see the short with the Tabard. Okay, that's going to be last one, and then we're done. Short duster, moth in oatmeal, moth Tabard, Playsuit in dark teal. See how this is slightly disparate? They're kind of in the same family because they're going towards the green spectrum, but then this is more of a muddy color. This is going more towards the blue. I'll show you how you can pull that together just like that, and it doesn't have to be with multicolor. Just noticed that I had these hanging here still, but look what happens. Clashing colors galore. The shoes that I have on are bronzy. Then we've got this bluish color of the dark teal. Then we've got this murky brownish green of the moth. And now I'm adding an apple green. And it ties everything together. I can go in a slightly different direction. It doesn't have to be apple. But somehow bringing in that one extra color makes a big difference. So here I've got, actually this is nearly the same. This is the bitter lime in the Yak Blend 2. Nearly the same color as my shoes. So what if I put that on together with the colors that I've got? Same thing happens. There is then this coming together of the look. And of course you can keep layering and keep adding pieces like a shirt or a long sleeve t-shirt if you go towards autumn or winter. Keep layering away. You can layer your scarves. You can add this back in if it's even colder. You know me, we've done this in the previous episode. There we are, showed from a little bit closer so you can see what those colors do. Heavier shoes, of course, if we're going towards winter. But as with all the other layer cakes, the duster can very easily be a year-round garment when you wear it as part of a set of layers. Any questions, please ask. If none of these three colors are your bag at all, then bear with us, because once the fabric supply from our regular factory gets going again, we'll be sure to bring in more colors for the duster. I think it's already proving a hit. It's going to be one of our staple garments. The limited edition part at the moment is not the fact that it's a new garment shape, but the fabrics that we are making them in at the moment, because once we have used up the fabric that these three different ones, the black, the taupe and the oatmeal, are made of, then we don't have any more of these. Then we'll go back to our regular fabrics, different colors, but our regular washed linen will be coming in this shape, both lengths. Any feedback, gratefully received. I hope I didn't bore you to tears with all my different variations. This was playing for me as well, which I hadn't had a chance to do yet. So thank you for sticking this out, and I'll hope to see you again soon.